This is a Commodore 64. It's one of the most capable 8-bit computers ever made. It's also the best-selling computer ever made. This is a Chromebook, a cheap laptop that really only browses the web. In today's video, we're going to be seeing which one is superior. So let's look at the specifications of these two machines. So the Commodore 64 has a MOS Technology 6510 running at 1.023 MHz. This is a variant of the 6502 processor. It has 64K of RAM, obviously that's why it's called the Commodore 64. It has 20 kilobytes of ROM. It has the MOSFET 2 video chip, which can display 40 column text, 16 colors, as well as it has a 320 by 200 bitmap graphics mode at 16 colors. For sound, it has the SID chip at 6510s. There's also the 8580 and later models. And it's basically just a 3-voice synthesizer. Now let's look at the Chromebook. We have an Intel Celeron N3060 at 1.6 GHz. For RAM, we have 4 GB. We have 32 GB of internal storage, and it has Intel integrated graphics. And for sound, it just has a generic Realtek ALC5650 chip. Way less interesting in the SID chip, I have to say. And the Chromebook superiority just about ends there. So I'd have to say the Chromebook is definitely a clear winner here, even though the Chromebook isn't really that impressive even by today's standards. Don't worry, Commodore fans, the Chromebook will have lots more opportunities to fail. So on the Chromebook for I/O, there's 2 USB ports, a HDMI port, a micro SD card slot. I'm not totally sure why they didn't go with full-size SD. Then there's a charging port, and then on the other side we've got a headphone jack, and then like a security lock. As for the Commodore 64, there is a user port which can have tons of different peripherals and devices hooked up to it. We've got a port for a cassette drive. We've got an IEC port. This is for connecting stuff like disk drives and printers, and it can be daisy chained. Got a separated LCA video out as well as a composite video out. And we've also got RF out for connecting it to a TV. And next to that is just a channel 3/4 switch. And then we've got this expansion port, which is often used for cartridges. And in here, I have a device installed. It's called an SD to IEC. Basically allows you to use SD cards with your Commodore 64 as a more convenient and more reliable alternative to just using floppy disks. As well as the particular one I have here actually has an Epix Fastload cartridge built into it, which is pretty cool. So yes, the Commodore 64 does indeed have an SD card slot, and a full-size one at that. I'd definitely say that the Commodore 64 is the winner here, since it has a lot more variety in terms of the ports, as well as the expansion port gives you full access to the system bus. And the ports are a lot more versatile, as well as the serial port can be daisy chained, which is nice. Software support can make or break a computer platform. As for the Chromebook, this has got to be one of its biggest downfalls, as it mainly was only designed to run Chrome, and it can run a bunch of Chrome extensions and in-browser app type things, as well as it does have a few other like native apps that have come out more recently, but most of these are just souped up Android apps, or in some cases watered down ones. The Commodore 64, on the other hand, has a massive library of software and games. I mean, being the best-selling computer of all time, it just has so many programs, there really isn't even a hard number. It's just such a massive library of software to choose from. The Commodore 64 is the clear winner here. When it comes to typing, the Chromebook doesn't really have that great of a keyboard. It's just kind of one of those generic, mushy, chiclet type keyboards that pretty much all laptops have these days. whereas the Commodore 64 has a much nicer keyboard, nice full travel mechanical switches, makes a fair bit of noise, and sits at a good, comfortable position. So yet again, the Commodore 64 wins. Here's where I thought the Chromebook would absolutely fall flat on its face, but honestly, it actually, when I think about it, it wasn't so bad, although you're not going to be running any like big PC titles, except for maybe Minecraft here, which actually I just learned today you can. There was a version for Chromebooks, and but it doesn't run very well. As well as on Chromebooks, you have like these awesome little flash games and stuff, like on sites like Cool Math Games, which for me is super nostalgic, and these are lots of fun. Commodore 64 has a massive library of awesome games, 5,091 according to Moby Games here, and the Commodore 64 was quite the graphics and sound powerhouse for a while. So that's only a few examples of some of the absolutely awesome games made for the Commodore 64. And it was a really tough decision figuring out a winner for this category. But I'd say I'm going to make this one a tie just because, you know, there's some pretty memorable titles for both systems. None of the ones you can play on the Chromebook are really native to the Chromebook the same way the ones for the Commodore 64 only work on a Commodore 64. But yeah, this one's gonna be a tie. So the final thing we're gonna look at is coolness factor. And this is where the Commodore 64 blows the Chromebook right out of the water, up into the air, and into a dumpster fire. The Commodore 64 is just the absolute epitome of cool. I mean, if you want to be cool like me, you've got to have a Commodore 64. My Commodore 64 just makes me so cool and awesome. I mean, just look at how cool I am. So that leaves us with the final score of the Commodore 64 with 255, and the Chromebook with the score of negative infinity. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.